Welcome to Eschborn-Frankfurt 2025. This is the 62nd edition of Der Radklassiker, one of two German races on the World Tour calendar. Historically, it's been one for the sprinters, and we do have former winners Jasper Philipsen and Pascal Ackermann on the start line. In recent years, though, there's been a shift towards the classic specialists, and there are plenty of them here today as well, including Julian Alaphilippe, Michael Matthews and Neilson Paulus. Defending champion Maxime van Gils is absent after a crash at Amstel Gold, but last year's runner-up Alex Aranburu leads the Cofidis squad, while former national champions Niels Pollitt and Maximilian Schachmann will be flying the flag for Germany. Well, the race organisers have stuck with the same formula as last year: 2 climbs of the Feldberg and 3 climbs of the Mammolshainer, just under 200 kilometres to cover. The Taunus hills will provide a perfect springboard for the attacks, and anything's possible today. It could be a long-range solo effort, a reduced group, or even a bunch sprint on the finish line in Frankfurt. Once the race director and former winner Fabian Wegmann had waved them off, it took a few kilometres for the breakaway to form. There were a couple of half-hearted attacks, but a move didn't stick until they came past the finish line for the first time. 2 riders going clear, Laurens Pithy of Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe and Pierre Thierry in the red of Arkea B&B Hotels. The peloton were happy with that, so Pithy and Thierry quickly opened up a big gap as the 126 riders made their way out into the Taunus hills. On the first climb of the Feldberg, 11 kilometres at 5%, the 2 leaders managed to eke out a maximum gap of over 6 minutes. But slowly but surely that was whittled down before the summit, with Alpecin de Koenig's Michael Gogol pacing the peloton on behalf of Philipsen, the bunch not wanting to give Pithy and Thierry too much freedom. Lidl Trek's Tim de Klerk was also helping out at the front of the bunch for his leader Thibaut Nys, 5th at Liège-Bastogne-Liège last Sunday. It was soon time to hit the Mammolshainer for the first time, and the moment the road began to rise again, Pithy cracked. The Kiwi unable to stay with Thierry, who ploughed on solo. The Frenchman leading the way up this famous climb, with the peloton around 3.5 minutes further back. But it was game faces on as they approached the final 100 kilometres, with Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe and EF Education EasyPost really upping the tempo. 21-year-old Thierry was powerless to resist this charging peloton, and he was swallowed up on the second hike up the Mammolshainer. They were straight onto the second climb of the Feldberg, going up the shorter but steeper side, with Jayco AlUla doing some real damage. Niels Pollitt was one of the first to hit a wall. The German has never had much joy at this race. Roger Adria, who was 5th here last year, also going backwards. And so too was Alaphilippe, although his group would have a chance to catch up again after the summit. There were over 50 kilometres to cover before the final and potentially decisive climb of the Mammolshainer. But Jayco AlUla and UnoX Mobility kept pushing things on. They were obviously confident that their punchy sprinters, Michael Matthews and Magnus Cort, could get the job done in Frankfurt. The 2 teams making it very hard for any of the chasers to get back on. Indeed, the Alaphilippe group would never catch up, and only around 40 riders were still in contention as they approached the Mammolshainer for the final time. They included Matthews, Cort, Aranburu, Paulus, Schachmann, Hirschi and Velasco. On to the last climb of the day then, and Paulus, in pink, was the first man to up the tempo. Alessandro Covi then made his move on the left-hand side, but neither man was able to get a gap. A group of around 20 riders heading into the trees, and there Max Schachmann went clear. The German was joined by Andreas Leknersund and Gregor Mühlberger. That trio opened up a gap of around 10 seconds, but they had to work together, and Leknersund was unwilling to give any turns with his teammate Cort just behind. It was going to be a tall order staying out in front then, but Schachmann and Mühlberger gave it a good go. UnoX also showing their strength in depth as Frederik de Varsenes tried to bridge across with Paulus in what was turning into a sensational finale. But they simply couldn't open up the gap, and eventually, with just over 18 kilometres remaining, it all came back together again. This group of 30 or so riders heading back into Frankfurt for a bunch sprint.
And into the final moments, it's Valgren going to set up Niels Paulus, in case you're wondering, and Magnus Cort second in line here for the Uno X, down around the final bend and inside the final 500 metres. The sprint for glory here in Eschborn-Frankfurt is underway as the wind-up begins on the front. Valgren pulls over, tries to present Niels Paulus in the pocket, but it's Magnus Cort that's going to have the final say, the final lead out. Mark Hirschi moving up for the Tudor Pro Cycling team as well. Denz is trying to put himself into a prime position. Couple of options for the Bora Hansgrohe squad. They're all starting to crowd around and everyone wants this sprint to begin. Hasn't quite got underway just yet. And here goes Cort. Cort for glory. Michael Matthews round the outside. Michael Matthews going for glory and he's not going to be denied this time. Michael Matthews surely going to get there. Will he be able to get over him? It's not. It's Michael Matthews, hands in the air. Gets the glory, gets the victory at Eschborn-Frankfurt. At last, relief for Bling. He gets the win that he so desired.
After coming third back in 2011 and second in 2018, Michael Matthews finally has his first victory at Eschborn-Frankfurt. After some solid results in the Spring Classics, including fourth at Milan-San Remo and fifth at the Amstel Gold Race, the Aussie also has his first win of 2025.
It's been a race that really suits me for a lot of years and haven't been able to win it. So yeah, to come here today with the team, the way we rode perfectly, and to execute a performance like my team did for me today, it just puts the icing on top of the cake.
Matthews taking his 43rd career win ahead of Cort, who had to settle for second despite all of Uno X's efforts. Jan Barrenetxea came third, his best World Tour result, followed by Paulus, Frederik Wandal and the youngest rider in the race, 18-year-old Albert Withen Philipsen. Bling back on top of a podium for the first time since September and looking absolutely delighted about it. The perfect way for him to round out the classic season as we now switch our focus to stage racing and the Grand Tours. Do join us again next time and thanks for watching.